Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon. This is Shirley with Spirit of Matter. And right now we're in a Mercury retrograde type of episode where it is a good time to begin to look at what we talked about when Mercury was still direct astrologically. And so definitely we were looking up to the Mars-Jupiter conjunction squaring Saturn that is happening these very days. And we were talking about Uranus going retrograde September 1. This is because we already talked about Uranus. And we also talked about Chiron going back to the 22nd degree of Aries. I'm sorry, this is just Mars doing Mars. Gemini has my fourth house and I got kittens fighting. There's nothing I can do about this. Anyway, so Chiron going to the 22nd degree of Aries, which is happening 31 August. So all of these together, while the moon is approaching 22nd degree of Scorpio. So let's do an ode to the 22. Beginning but with this Mars-Jupiter conjunction, because this Mars-Jupiter is very it's complex, and it's opening a synodic cycle of Mars around Jupiter, 2.5 years until Mars, around 2.5 years, okay, until we meet again, okay? So what the topics that come out, before we even think of Saturn, what the topics that come out right now, we gotta pay close attention, because this is the closing cycle of 2.5 years, okay, since this point, especially if you got something on this point, okay? Hopefully you don't have moon like some of my colleagues. I had literally a dream where they were having their name on a platform that they no longer use. I'm not gonna say the name, but it was like, why am I having this dream? And I'm like, oh, this Jupiter Mars conjunction is on the moon. Oh, okay, and they had then the moon in their 12th house. So they reached to me through a dream. I have Venus in my 12th house. So that was very interesting. I was like, oh, okay. It's just something related to them. I don't know. But if you have something in the middle phase of Gemini, this is important because this hits you directly and personally. And so this is closing cycle, okay? Mars is closing something to do with action and ideas in the sign of Gemini, and the closure is on social media or communication or contracts or trade or children, all things Mercury, technology as well, all things Mercury. And you got to look at your houses, okay? What ascendant you have would tell you what field in life, where's Mercury in your natal chart, and so on. Something is closing, okay, of 2.5 years, and something else is opening, okay? There's a new perspective. Now, conjunction is the blend of energies. Mars is hot and has a telos, has a direction, okay? It's the arrow. You shoot the arrow, okay? You release, and then the arrow shoots itself, penetrating the air, creating friction, heat, okay? Jupiter is expansive, not expensive, but expansive. It is of the temperature that you could nourish children with, okay? It is a temperature that is has humidity. It is not as cool as the moon, okay? And for the reason the moon is cool, it's actually Okay, if we can get to that. Um, Luna is cool because we think about the fluids that come out of the vagina during the fertility time. It's basically cooler so that they can preserve the semen, Jupiter, uh, until it absorbs. Okay, so then you have conception. And Jupiter is of temperature that is humid enough but warm, so it can nourish life. Okay, once it's inside the body, it can nourish life. But Mars is the delivery pipe. Okay, is hot and has a direction. Okay, so this is basically a channel of life, and so when you think about the blending of these energies, Mars and Jupiter has a certain way of Mars attempting to give direction to Jupiter's philosophy, to Jupiter's seed. Okay? Conjunction is a hard aspect. Okay, no, I'm not saying we're going to be born children necessarily on this one, but they can be. Conjunction is astrology. I'm trying to explain astrology, and keep in mind that not all people know all the years of astrology that I'm in, so I'm trying to make it comprehensible. But this is so. And the thing is that with Mars conjunct in Jupiter, we try to act on our ideas. Okay, we try to act on our ideas. We try to basically have an inception of a certain philosophy, a certain worldview, and a certain idea. And so with Jupiter, it tends to expand, and so that might be a big, giant leap forward or giant leap somewhere. And this is happening in the sign that rules, again, children, trade, the cunningness of communication, so technology, social media, but also is involved with laws and contracts, and there is a shift of direction. Okay, something is closing, so something is opening, something else is opening at the, an end is a new beginning. Okay, if you have closure with something, now you have idea of what the next step is. This is the conjunction between Mars and Jupiter. Yes, it is true that Mars is also war, aggression, hot blood. Okay, so and Jupiter expands things. So we do see that as well. We're gonna have decisive actions, and all of that is in the sign of Gemini, which is ruled by Mercury, which is retrograde. So we have a cycle beginning where everything, the entire cycle, has an opening tone, okay, in the key of, we're gonna have to talk about this again. This is very important if you hopefully, like when I think about it's not such good election for conception of children, but although it is a very fertile one, okay, it's just the energy, especially when the moon aspects this, but we're going to definitely have to address this, the entire 2.5 years that we're opening right now, again. One such event is when we think about the eclipse cycle we had in 2016, 2015, and even 2017. We are having those again into 2024. It's a different version that we have of something that started, but we're having again. And this eclipse cycle had Mercury retrograde in it. So we are readdressing. We had eclipses with Mercury retrograde. Yes, in Aries, do you remember that? We are still alive. Those of us that are still alive, After this eclipse was this year, don't mess with me now. Mercury is retrograde. Okay, Mars can also be mistakes and accidents. So Jupiter, it can be joy, so happy accidents, um, or mistakes that make you really laugh hard. But that is, again, something we're going to have to address, to have to revisit. And that is important to keep in mind for what is beginning this week. Okay. And this is before we adjoin. Okay, just like in belly dance, they get the parts of the movement and then we adjoin to have a more holistic picture. And now we join Saturn, and Saturn is retrograde in Pisces and now reached to, is still 18 degree, now reached to 17 degree. I think right now is already 17 degree of Pisces retrograde, giving us another. We are going to have to address this again, and setting the stage and setting the tone. So don't be surprised when you are right now beginning something that seems like conquering mountains, because it is a beginning of a journey of climbing a mountain or conquering a mountain. Okay, and conquering a mountain is inner, but a climbing a mountain is external. And so you conquer a mountain within, so you climb a mountain outside. If you think about, when I refer to that, when you look at the mountain and you say, oh, you think, oh my God, this is so much. How will I ever reach the top? Okay. It's a mountain within that you need to climb, or that you need to conquer, of your disbelief, of your but also the balancing between seeing the might of nature and your point of interference. Okay, you're being a part of this nature, and then there's a mountain to climb. You conquer the mountain within, and you find yourself at the top of that mountain that you thought you could never reach. Okay, and you learn a lot along the way. And there's also for the mountain within, if you're the stone that forms within the mountain, which and this part, the stone that forms within the mountain, I heard from a reader, I think a tarot reader, but I'm not sure. Yes, I'm not sure. If you know in the comment who was, yes, the person, you can write it, but I will, if I see it again, then I will write it in the comments. So the square to Saturn is giving us a beginning of something that we'll have to readdress, rethink, and yet it is scheduled to begin something new. Okay, for example, let's say you need to renew your contract over. You need to renew a contract, but Mercury is retrograde, but this is a square Saturn, but this is such bad timing. Okay, well, you have to make a decision. Either you don't begin now contract, okay, and you do like me and you stay in between houses for 6 months until I got here. You make a third option, but you will definitely need to readdress of what you decide again, or readdress what you're creating again. Jupiter aims at choice, okay? And yet this choice has a friction from Saturn. So you understand Jupiter, seed or semen, the bringer of children, the teacher, the philosopher, philosophy, children, choice. This is what Jupiter rules. Okay, you can't do Jupiter if you have all of them. And that might be a part of that, and that has to do with fertility, Venus, Moon. So, choice. And yet comes Gemini, the sign of This is a high ideal, but sometimes there are happy accidents. What do you do then? Okay, so this is this is a part of what is happening right now, and the friction from Saturn is creating a situation where it can feel like a test or exam. Sometimes for you, you might be taking a test or exam. You might be taking the first test towards something. So even if it's your certification towards something, it's very likely it's only the beginning of a journey that you will, that you will have 12 years around, okay, because it's Jupiter. So there's still some years to go, but you could be culminating or conquering the first mountain, or have a situation where you are taking tests. Saturn is also taxation. Saturn can be a certain ending. Okay, so there is expansion and then there is contraction that coming from Saturn in Pisces. Will tell you, okay, this I can do, this right now I cannot do. But in Pisces, you always think of the higher meaning of this limitation, perhaps even more easily. Because if somebody tells you, well, you can't do this, you're not authorized to do this, you say, okay, why am I not authorized to do this? What does it mean in my way? What do I need to learn to do this? How do I need to proceed to do this? Or if it's limitation, is it pointing towards that I need to take a different direction, Mars and Jupiter, or to point at this from a different direction? Okay, and that is all in the context of we'll have to take a look at it again. Mars also rules war and weapon, and it also rules Chiron. Before Uranus turns retrograde, which is our next topic, Chiron on the 31 August is going to turn retrograde on the 22nd degree of Aries again. So it's going to retrograde and go over. It is retrograding. It's going to go over the 22nd degree where it has been just until some months ago. For me, I am quite both looking forward and anxious, because I've managed to do something when Chiron was on the 23rd degree. I believe it was already on the 23rd when I did that, and I saw good results. And because the problem persisted to the 23rd degree, I saw good results on the 23rd degree, because it was a chronic problem. And now I'm really, really looking forward to see what happens when it goes to the 22nd degree. And it's actually has to do with life and death. So we'll see. We'll see. It's going to be really exciting if the good results persist. And yeah, that is what I have to say about this. So it might be different, and this is a part of what we believe in. Gets a certain test. Okay, if you tried something, it worked so far, will it work under these circumstances? That can also be the case because Mars is ruling Chiron in Aries. Chiron in Aries has to do with who we are. Chiron on the 22nd degree Aries has to do with, oh my god, and I just thought about Tupac. Oh my god. Okay, this will deserve an episode of its own. Chiron 22nd degree has to do with the right to be who you are and stay alive. And if you wonder what the Tupac is, yes, you think about Tupac that was murdered, and you think about the music industry in general as too infused with sex trafficking rings that are basically a cluster of masquerading MK Ultra think. I wouldn't think that sex trafficking and pedophilia is something you do as a cover up. But I learned this from survivors, that you think like, who would use that as a cover up? Okay, so what's your cover up? Well, pedo. How is that a cover up? Well, you would like, what is it that you do? Well, it's just the world wars that are being planned, and perpetual slavery and holocausts and so on. And we use hidden psychic technologies, and some people involve aliens and stuff. I haven't gone to the aliens part. And so the pedophile is like a cover story. It's just like, well, if they got the pedophilia, we are pretty much okay. And that's like, well, that's a giant rabbit hole. And so that is true. And when you get that, you ask yourself, okay, but did we allow non involved with those things type of musicians, or creative figures and so on, to remain alive? And apparently we did not. So you have to understand who are the people that are alive, okay? So this is a certain perspective where life and death is already depending on the issue of identity, okay? If it can be the values of a person, okay, what the skill is and the values of a person, and it can be the identity, okay? Did we allow gender non-conforming people to exist without having to tie themselves up to gender affirming surgeries? Did we allow for this to exist? Because right now it can exist if you are a woman that was born with a penis and did gender affirming, or you're a man that was born with vagina and did gender affirming. What we're not allowed is to be a cisgender woman, and they call this LGBTQ rights. Okay, and there's nothing wrong with either of the cases, but why they not allow women has to do with choice. Because gender affirming, most of you don't have choice, and you can't reverse this choice. Choice is important to fertility, Jupiter, seed. Okay, Venus, that which carries the seed. Okay, so these are just thoughts that come in mind, and choice is not just of Venus, which is important, and that's okay. You can see all the intricacies that are inlaid in the fabric of this, from another point of view. So Chiron on the 22nd, adding to this a life and death issue of the I am, of the identity of people. Yes, with Mars in Gemini, has to do with children. Begin to tend to expandable children, very, very strongly on a Chiron 22 degree. For cold cases, now that the moon is kind of almost 22 in on us, you want to take a look at the cold cases that have been opened up the last time Chiron was on the 22nd degree. So we had about a month of relaxation, a month or two of relaxation from the 22nd degree, including of the retrograde, I think, already. And then you're going to go back. Okay, what were the cold cases that were opened back then? Of those that were murder cases, you might have a new perspective. Okay, so something's coming up. were affiliated. One of the things that came up for me was the understanding that those kidnapping of children, okay, that are tended to on way before 7th October and Ukraine war, when I was in between houses, because I was exposed to what's happening in the streets, right? And who are the people other than like refugees and other people that need to be tended to, but also the children, okay? And that was why I tended to it. I said, don't want to leave it, but I need to recover myself and so on. Which led to me looking deeper into misdaad verslaggever, and so which led me to expandable children. And so now I see all these careful programming or the MK Ultra stuff coming around and relating to a topic that I tended to at 7th of October, which is preparing the path for returning of kidnapped people. And I see that I have way more to offer on this, in way better terms, and that is definitely not of what the organizations of the families are connecting to, and they're not allowed. Okay, it's not because they don't want to be individuals; they're individuals who are not allowed. So this is something to keep in mind as weird things happen in the world. I know that there are people talking about, will there be ending of the war of Ukraine and Russia? I think this points to the Saturn-Neptune conjunction, and I'm not sure, but I haven't watched those videos. I would be, we are in a certain chain of events right now that requires a different type of approach. Okay, so this is for cold cases, and this is for expandable children cases. One important thing to remember is Chiron in Aries is about identity, and we see how expandable children or children even not registered at birth or replaced at birth. I know there are great people that tend to the replaced at birth. I know a lot of them are doing it from within the cult, but you have to understand there's nobody to do it from outside the cult other than survivors, which usually are tending to heal themselves. So it's important to stay in check that they tend to the issue and they don't do the washing of the issue. Okay, it's not to create the division, because to have the names is important, but it's also important to have the structure so we can tend to dissolve what we need to dissolve and create what we need to create to change that. So that will be on, okay, Chiron, and this is connection to the identity of creating torture and trauma in children, and exposing them to horrible murders, is actually done to program them and then make them forget things. And the electric shock, I already said, is used to approaching Uranus. In this very weird way, there's something very flowy about this energy, from the flow from one topic to another very naturally, which is interesting because Mercury is retrograde. So you see, Mercury retrograde, great time to talk about what we began before. And now the identity issue is going to fit in to that 22. For example, the Alice in Wonderland, if you look at Svali interview with Imagination Podcast, Alice in Wonderland, so the child that went through for the rapes or the torture, for the psychic or physical, Yes, they do it also only psychic for people that they did not manage to like kidnap physical. And I'm one of those children, apparently. I didn't know if that was the case. And there are many such programs. Okay, so it's MK Ultra, this with Richard Mason, then there's Alice in Wonderland, then there's many other. Okay, you need to check. And so I just recently I was tending to a being that experienced something like incest, and then came another person and tried to program me to forget. Okay, and I was like, no. But they appeal to the side of you that wants to forget. Okay, that wants to say this didn't happen. And there is a part of the child where if they remember the programming, because they're supposed to not remember, then there is a part of them that's basically designed to assassin themselves and or another. It's the child assassin. So this brings us back to preparation for Chiron 22, more insider information on child assassin, which resolved a great deal for me when it came to my psychologist. Because that was why the child assassin was triggered. And it's like, yeah, it would trigger childhood trauma. It's like, oh no, because I was exposing the cult and exposing his programming, which he could not forget. And then the child assassin is activated of trying to unalive me, or to make me forget, or to make me not speak, or to make me this, or to make me that. And the only way I know is to expose the truth and to speak, and that's how I stayed in my body. So that was, but for the inner child, it is perpetuating trauma, because instead of finding their power in the face of those programmers, they try to find their power in the face of me, the child, and feel helpless. Okay, and I was like, oh, that's why there's so many years trying and trying and trying, is because of that. So I can, stay humble, but still, of course, protect myself and so on. And um, this is, yes, very important as we come to tend to this topic. Okay. Chiron 22, identity, and Mars in the sign of children, but also in sign of, when you think about a trade, or you think about business people, and that sort of, okay, it might not be, and it can be the simple thing of we have, yes, kidnapped children and so on. Mundane events might reveal more children that are no longer with us. Okay, murdered children. It was a topic in a lot, and it's going to be a topic. We're going to have to address this, and we're going to have to address murdered children also as expandable children, also as programmed children, and many people grown, okay, lawyers, businessmen, entertainment people, also mercurial, high-tech innovators, yes, that are these expandable children that they didn't manage to kill. It's also important, okay, if you're a grown, let's say, lawyer, tries to tend to replace that word children or something like that, and what happened there, for you have programming of both that child assassin, but also for that programmer, for to make someone forget, okay, and you have to understand what programming you have. And Imagination Podcast can perhaps assist you with this, okay, or you businessman, or you innovator, and so on and so forth. Okay, so it's important to remember. And that we understand what this happens in therapy, then finding ways to ground yourself. And with Chiron in Aries, is you have to tend to this. It's about self-care. Okay, so it's less about depending on somebody else to do this for you, but doing this for yourself, and which is the wound, okay? Because you have to self-care in the place where you're not supposed to be self-caring, okay? That is, yeah. And is life and death involved with this? Also, when you think about war or army, some of you might not be watching this episode, or maybe later will watch this episode and are in wars. And then you have to self-care, or you have to protect the self, if maybe even with gun or your house, where it's not you that should be having to do this. I had to do this with talismans. Okay, I had to protect this land that I rent, okay? It's young. And I had to protect this land, and I have to protect the people that live in this land, and the inhabitants and the other inhabitants in the house, for things that I was not even aware of, because I just did for the protection. And this, yes, this is something that I didn't have to deal with, okay, before. And it's not something I should be self-caring about, okay? This is not right. And this is, I have no idea what I protect with it. Like, really, when it comes to the essence of spirit and matter, when you tend to these things, wow, I have no idea even to the extent of that work. Now, when I think about this, but this is also Chiron Aries. Sometimes you're not supposed to be the soldier, but you have to be the warrior where you're not supposed to be. This is the Chiron Aries, okay? Nobody's supposed to, yes, sometimes you have to assert yourself and Mars is there, but nobody's supposed to, you know, chronically or keep you from being yourself. Okay, there's not situation. If you think about an upbringing of a child, encouragement of the child to be should be there. Yes, they learn the self-care. They learn that if they cry, then they get food or water or a hug or something like that, but not that they are needing to take that food or to hug themselves or something. This can be as simple as that, but also, yeah, or if you're running from violence, you have to do the protection yourself. Okay, which is how I began to tend to political assassination prevention, because I saw from Peter, if you watch the channel, you know already who Peter is. And from his case, I saw immediately what the police was like partying like the Red Sea. And you can tell me, but he was this, he was that, 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 he was that. Yes, what could he be not all these things that you say, which may be true. Okay, structurally, some likely to be true. Could he be not that and still tend to what he tended to? Okay, and he was assassinated very much similar fashion that people who, let's say, leave the partner or leave violent situation, okay, was allowed to be in these situations. And then you say, well, the police not doing right. Well, the police doing right in many other cases. Why the police not doing right here? Maybe they're not allowed to do right. What's stopping them? Okay, what's the next step? What's the next step? What's the next step? Then I saw where the death threats coming from, which, okay, also had the distinguished honor to be exposed to that. And of course, you have to be informed and well phrased in shielding yourself in a way that is Yeah, I'm not for each person. This from the spirit and the matter way. You have your own. Okay, I'm not here. I'm not here to tell you how to do things, or which belief system or whatnot. Definitely your own way. So that you're okay, you're well phrased in that. Because the minute you tend to that, you understand. If they even so much as see you, yes, but it got to the point that I did a maneuver publicly, and it is so far so good. And then you understand for these secret societies. Of course, and now you get why police is not allowed to help, let's say, a woman who escaped a husband or a husband that yes, this can also be, who knows. I mean, there are all kinds of cases, and it's not about gender, it's about well-being. Okay, it's just being. And police not allowed, because once you escape violence, you know how to identify it, and once you know how to identify it, you can connect. Oh, these murdered women. Oh, Peter the Vries. Oh, this political assassination. Oh, this cult, it operates in a very weird way, but all the symbols are so for mine, with there, with there, with there, with there, with there. It is all operate in one way. Oh, for you, for dismantle the way you've dismantled political assassination, yes, but then you have to turn to expandable children, which is what I'm telling you right now. So now let's get to Uranus, because Uranus is going to go retrograde on September 1st on 27 degrees Taurus, which means we are preparing the ground for another Urano-Algol. Those of you who did not get to do Urano-Algol talismans, I will do it with direct Uranus, as I did. Two talismans with direct Urano-Algol. You have to be well phrased with working with Algol. Make sure Algol is not minima. You can look minima Algol, where it's in your area. Don't do minima Algol. That's important because this is eclipse, and eclipse is like it's been taken care of. Okay? It's already been taken care of. Eclipses is been taken care of. Something you didn't see before going to shift your vision. And Algol eclipses it's better per se, the eclipse every 3 days. It's the power of three, the three-faced ruled by thy decree Venus, that I heard playing in my head so long for a couple of days, of the power of Venus, that she rules the three faces, that she rules Algol better per se. And so once you get Algol on the correct phase, just not the minima, then you can add all the components of astrological magic and do for the magic. Okay, that's the thing you need to get. It's not too complicated. I want to simplify for you working with Algol. What more important is that you honor and respect willing consent, all things Venus. Okay, the voice, willing consent, a whole mind and spirit, because the deacon of mind and spirit view of Venus, okay, coming together. So when you tend to something, you have to tend to the spirit and the matter of the matter. Yes, I have my lot of spirit, Venus, on 22 degrees Taurus, hence the odd to the 22. Is what I can do about 22 degree, basically. And this is for the name of this channel. And yes, and I owe great reverence to Austin Coppock for the 36 Phases, where he talks about this deacon of Taurus. Although I have to admit, the channeling I received before I knew about this. And I'm also grateful for this, okay? Because this has been very useful. I'm very grateful. So that is something that you need to keep in mind. Urano-Algol retrograde is going to not be a time for potent Urano magic, okay? you can call on the talisman, but it might not be time to prepare such talismans, which is important, because the retrograde phase, we don't use, I'm not saying you can't do this, okay, so if Algol is not minimum, it's not eclipse, but it's not going to give you for the energy that you usually look for direct planet, okay? You might want to try this for revising, working, okay, like I'm using the Mercury retrograde hour right now to talk about what I already talked about, and I had a better flow of things, but to start something new, I wouldn't necessarily, okay? This is a big event. Urano-Algol is a huge event. So we want to pay very close attention to the things that come up. As Uranus begins to retrograde, it's still a degree away from Algol. And I invite you to call on 5th lunar mention. Al-Haka or Kabil is associated with 5th lunar mention. And this is a mention of spirit and matter. It's called the luckiest of lucky. Okay, not the third. The third lunar mention is also for lucky things, but here is uniting, have eurekas on spirit and matter. Okay, you can say, then imagine what the Urano, the 5th lunar mention talisman is. Yes, I don't have to imagine. I did it, and it was fated for me. I was fortunate, and I'm grateful to have had such talisman, one of the life-changing things, I can tell you that. But I want you to begin to call on 5th lunar mention, and this is going to be useful. If you have talismans, this will be very useful. And yes. As for like decanic things, I don't know if there's something spirit and matter. So, what was that the answer? I was like, I should do it? Okay, beseder. But I need Austin's book first, which is, I think, coming up in 2025. So I'll take a look at what Sphere and Sundry did for that with the elections and see. I guess I'm being called to do that. Okay, then beseder. Calling received, challenge accepted, and so and yes, other things to keep in mind with this Uranus retrograde is also ruling astrology. So all things Algol and astrology. We saw the many things that happened with the Mercury, Venus, Uranus on Algol, on the Urano-Algol. I see it already. I told Elon. I received Omen like you think I'm trying to frighten him. I'm not trying. That's not applying to your fear. I said, with Algol is a great wealth talisman. I know that a lot of people working with Algol like Versace. Please, okay? It's a great wealth talisman when women are well treated, when anything Venus is well treated, okay? So you cannot be doing tricks and things and stuff like that, and it backfires. So please, okay? This is really, really important. I cannot stress this enough. I know that it's like the 3 faces, the power of 3, head of Satan. Of like, okay, let's hear about Algol outside the cult, and just prepare. Okay, just prepare. Just tend to it, because when we do remedy that and we do tend to that, we get the wealth. Okay, we get the actual wealth in spirit and in matter, which is the actual true bliss, true wealth, the luckiest of lucky, and all good things. So I've just been more close to the X story. Okay, I've saying that because I've been on X. I have been in a certain situation where we've seen things that's going good things, and like the platform and everything, and the launch dates and so on. So this is the closest to me. That's why I say that. I know there are digital coins, not to do with X, that have this. I know Lada talked about one. Please, if you are working with X, if you're working with Algol, okay, if you're working with Algol, you need to understand that respecting willing consent, honoring the validating Venus, if Jupiter is choice, Venus is validation, okay, giving validation to what the testimonials of people and understand the intricacies, okay, those things can undo the 22. And when you listen to survivors, you begin to learn how to do that and how to bring this complex message, and to begin to envision our economy and the technology on a give without expandable children and violence associated. This is so important right now. This is really culminating all I just said, okay? And it's giving you eurekas. But whichever side you are, it's giving you eurekas, because this is where the wealth is. This is where the wealth is. And, okay, this is where this is where we want to focus. Anything more about this transit? We'll definitely be revising what we've learned. Okay, we're going to be revising what we've learned. We're going to be, as Uranus does, and Algol does. We're going to be purging more, but we're also going to be rebelling more. Okay, Uranus really liberates. When Uranus decides to liberate you from something that does not work for you, a relationship. This is also the Lord of, it's the God of the sky, the God of thunder, but is also the God of divorce. Okay, this is why, yes, get yourself an astrologer before you get yourself a divorce lawyer. Because an astrologer could say, well, you have a Uranus transit here, let's wait it out. Let's allow this to be. If you have to divorce, you divorce, but let's see what's in there. Well, my wife cheated on me, my husband cheated on me. Okay, let's take a look at other aspects. Perhaps it's not because of looks or this or that, or she does this and that does that. Sometimes can be, okay, so parts of the sexuality that we've not integrated. For sometimes, what's happening now? What are they doing right now? Well, they're dressing well. Okay. They're taking care of their image. So suddenly, okay, what does it do? Well, it raised the business. Yes, bring in good money. Maybe you can share dividends. Okay. So this is, yes, but this is also doing something for the person. They began to paint. Okay, that's doing something for the personality. They begin to express their creative side. That's coming up from this affair. What else this person giving to that person? Okay, for many other things, when you get that, not unlike where there is projection in therapy room, I have to admit, yes, then the lightning strikes, you the rain is, make it rain, and then you've changed, forever changed, you've reacclaimed, you accepted something, radically accepted something, and now you can see of what is there. For what is there? Then you see, is it reason to divorce, or is it that was what is bringing to me, and then what this affair is doing is actually different. And sometimes people change ways, and sometimes, yes, there are also the cases where this person got divorced, that person got divorced, and they live together ever after doing astrology. One such couple is Lada Doncheva and her husband, and this is how Uranus relationships can also succeed and not just be a flare, but you have to have other significations. She has a course about it in the moon, which I myself am eyeing. So this is also about Uranus's divorce. I wanted to put it out there. We're going to definitely be rethinking both divorce, but also unusual commitment styles, how we treat people. Algol was accused of treason. Okay, it's not said now, but she was accused of treason. And those topics are going to come up again. We have some time with this to contemplate, but as relational astrologer, I can say that with Uranus you do, if it touches on your relations, you don't want to resist it too much. You want to ask yourself what's in there and allow things to take the course, if it is respectful for you, okay, set your boundaries and everything, but other than that, allow things to take the course, because Uranus is sexual, and sexual liberation in some way that's happening, through which, what people call it, Kundalini rise, okay, or maybe that's a cult expression, I don't know, but it's a sort of sexual liberation that happens there, okay, that is essential to your creative expression, direction in life, of radical acceptance, okay, other parts of your sexuality, many things that are happening are very important, whether you integrate them into your marriage, or you look for other to pursue the religion, or you just sometimes by yourself for a while. Knowing this and expressing this is more important than loyalties, commitments that you've made before you've known yourself. Okay, so how do you deal with that? It's not for me to tell. I'm not your divorce lawyer. I'm an astrologer. I have the flex of reaching my Uranus opposition, so far single. So, and from this privilege, I say to you, get an astrologer before you get a divorce, especially right now with all these retrogrades. Yes, darling. Yeah, they're here. They were fighting. You know. Yes. Okay, so I'm babysitting my cat's cats. That's what's up. I think it's pretty much for this episode. All these topics, okay, coming together. Anything more that happened during this time? Planets going retrograde? Not much. So we've talked about Mars-Jupiter conjunction squaring Saturn. We've talked about, and all that it entails, okay, something is ending at the front of acting on your philosophy or ideas, and something new is beginning. We talked about Chiron going on the 22, how this relates to those who also tend to expandable children, to cold cases, political assassination prevention, occult cases of political assassinations, be very appropriate to tend to at this time. and with the connection, okay, between being who you are and the wound around self-care for protecting your identity and who you are in the face of death threats, where you're not supposed to be doing that. You're just that Chiron. Chiron's the wounded healer. And then we talked about Uranus going retrograde. Understanding this also rules the digital coins, the mass media of expression, okay, like social platforms and stuff like that. Yeah, it's a great election. We also understand that our goal is about all things spirit and matter to do with sovereignty, and more than sovereignty, because it's not Aries, it's Taurus, okay? Safe in your sensuality, safe to explore pleasure, safe to express yourself, safe to relate, okay? Connection, economically safe, okay? Safe to be a part of the economy, to have land, all these things. Psychically safe, psychologically safe, believed, seen, and this is respected, okay? This is very much, your voice is valid, okay? You have valid things to say. You're not imagining. It's important things to say. It's not to your blame what happened to you, not your blame, okay? When we go from, as I said, okay, recently said that when we talk about, defending offenders and so on, we need to catch that what the people are victims and validate them, because it's essentially when you validate yourself for the place where you've been a victim to that, this is where you begin to understand that you're not to blame, and this is where you begin to have points of interference for Jupiter choice. We begin to access choice. That's validation. That's the key here. Therefore, we cannot, act on the count of the victims, right? And at the same time, we want to validate for what a person's been a victim, for not what a person's not been a victim. Okay, so for being perpetrator, when I said, okay, for perhaps you acted like this because you've been a victim, but what's this person? You've been perpetrator, and this is a way to start or to heal and actually to prevent future cases like this. And then Uranus Algol can give you the wealth, the eurekas, the ideas, the patterns, the release of blockages to wealth that is fulfilling in spirit and in matter. And this is what, what the people that work with Algon, all the lunches that we see is not about sacrificing, human sacrifice. So it's rape as a ritual. It's like, oh my God, no. Okay? And all these blood rituals, okay, red is Mars. Red is Mars. So you can work with Mars for courage and so on. You don't have to kill anybody that you don't have to kill, okay? That kind of to have appropriate way to work that is not archaic is important. And I think the bridging between people that come from nobilities or that come from lineages or that have been enslaved to those lineages, that come in contact with the people and different views of astrology for outside the cult as well, can bring in and bridge in the gaps to create society that's better to live in. And this is why it's allowed to have these encounters, what it came to do. not necessarily what was intended, but this is the beauty of the way things work, that essentially there are many points of interferences, and yeah. So yes, other things, Uranus, that we talked about, how it is also unusual when it comes to commitment styles, and how what we think is a affair, or it just happened affair, or scandal, can be from that point of view, is actually, yes, one's will and consent, a source of liberation from own constraints about the creativity and what you came to express, Venus, in the world. So perhaps even this video is kind of the beginning of this transit for you. I will see you in other episodes. Yeah, so right now we're getting from Moon Day to, that would be Venus night. So I've been hearing Venus in the past couple of days. I've been hearing the Orphic hymn to Venus playing in my head all the time, and I'm trying to understand what talisman is asked of me to do. Okay, because not in Venus days, I was like, what talisman is asked for me to do? I was exposed to the fact that, like, hey, have you noticed what Venus rules? Okay, she's like associated with Isis and Aphrodite and Inanna and Ishtar. Isis associated with Sirius, ruling Algol, ruling Spica. We got 6 September, Spica talisman coming for a good election to make Spica talisman. I know it's from Helwa's Astro, so thanks for the heads up for the election. You can pre-order hers with what she makes by her website. For what I will make, I will see what comes up. Okay, we'll also have Lilith coming up with Ketu. So I've been seeing the number 17 that's associated with Lilith, apparently. So 7 was, I think, it's Lucifer. But 7 is also associated with Al-Qaeda. So 7 and the cycles of Saturn, 7 years. And Lilith, that saved. Okay, but it's also Isis and Osiris. Okay, Isis saving Osiris, and having a penis replacement so that she can have his babies. It's given Obermensch, I get that. I think Mama versus Mafia. So you can watch Mama versus Mafia on YouTube. And if you wonder, Shirley, how come I get from your reference to Peter Adefries, Mama versus Mafia, David Icke, Geert Wilders, and all these people all together, this is why you watch my channel. Because I could do it. And I do it. Okay? You'll hear from me on D and Trump and Elon. That's what we need to talk about. And this is the combination of voices and perspectives and perceptions that are all bringing something together so that we can, yes, choose our own way to tend to this topic, or to what's coming up from all these things. Whether it's political assassination, expandable children, financial, okay, all things 2030, medical, okay, for what medicine is, what medicine isn't, and so on and so forth. There was a case with Elon that he has a trans child, and he was naming the child for the name they had before for the gender affirming thing. Yes, but also what he saw that he was not informed, his father, of all the things he would need to be informed when it came to this, okay, and that was crisis. At the same time, I had difficulty to accept what gender. Skip gender, toch? So all this crisis made him buy Twitter, I think, right? Or the platform where everybody had to state for your pronouns and so on, and wanted to bring in the voices of Jordan Peterson, then right-wing people, and then he gets a person like Wilders. So there's a Trojan horse everywhere, who has moon on Leo's, on Elon's, who has sun on Leo's moon, so sun to moon. So this is very fascinating for me to watch, but I have moon to sun, but I have moon to Elon's sun, so this is a very interesting combination. And then what the problem was that he was calling, it's called dead name, he was calling a child a dead name. And it was their own crisis and so on. And then people were like, oh, but Elon doesn't like that people called X Twitter. But you see how this is associated with the Urano algo. Uranus is also about the gender blender kind of thingy. And yet with the topic of medical warfare, where the gender doesn't have to conform with your medical warfare, okay? So what you think is medically appropriate, there are many ways to be of whichever gender we are, without necessarily having gender affirming, which is a very irreversible in many cases. Many things are irreversible. Implicate your life because it's a Catholic marriage with the medical institution, and we need to hear the various voices. Okay, we don't want a person to have gender dysphoria, but we want to have accessibility, but we also don't want to have morbidity because of it was money changing hands, and then children lost their ability to be fertile and so on. Now, interestingly enough, what the things Elon associates with are also tending to fertility, population, and so on and so forth. So we'll see what that yields. But this is such a Urano algo, okay, a thing that could happen. Okay, it's just a thing that could happen. Yes, it's also important with just all the shadow ban thingies, which is intricate topics, because it's when you give voices, you also have to protect these voices, and this is one giant thing. Okay, and this is true. Many intricacies to that. Okay, that is getting more and more intricate, entrepreneurially. Okay, I think about this from my perspective. People think from their perspective. And then there is also the topic that if one person has been silenced in other platforms, and then you get one platform that they can speak, then you think about this, if Beyonce at the time, she could choose, I can do exclusive interview with this person, will you pay me for this exclusivity? Then we got people so silenced that they should have been paid for exclusivity if it's media. And for the other things happen is that they are having only one platform, and that they have to continuously praise to not be shadow banned. Okay, so that thing is okay. There's an intricacy that we need to appreciate, but also there are eurekas and solutions. Uranus goes towards liberating the voice, so we will not be silenced, and it goes towards decentralization. Now, the funny thing, when I said to a person, listen, you got only this one platform, and for the person that wasn't, banned on all platforms and so on and so forth, then I had one privilege. From that privilege, so you got to have yourself on more than one platform. Otherwise, that is very easy to, and I use the word kaput, which is kaput al goal, for the visibility. And funnily enough, the solution is decentralized, because I have more platforms. But what this person is associated with is actually for something that is, in a roundabout way, still leading to globalism and globalist agenda. And this is okay for people that wore masks during COVID. We understand it ain't changed now. So this is very interesting. Okay, this actually person's been accused of being too centralized. But the solution to stay visible is to decentralize and decentralized systems. If you look at my bio on YouTube, you understand that I've been passionate about decentralized systems since, well, a long time ago, actually, since Sugar-Free Lemonade. And what I've been doing in 2017 that correlates to 2024 so well. And although it does move, it has to do with my Moon Aries relati. Yes, so that's been a revealing episode. And now we also have to tend to the fact that our digital coins are not only the state coins, but have been corporation owned for a long time when it comes to mining the resources, and that would require decentralization of the land, the real estate, the matter of things, but also from spirit level. Urano-Algol comes to do such a decentralization of wealth system. Remember, it was 1939 to 1941. After Second World War, women got the right to vote, and they could have bank account, okay, they could go to work, which brought other problems, okay, it's just like, you want to go to work, okay, go work, and then it was like, oh, labor rights, labor, and protests, leisure time, and the play between right wing, left wing, okay, that's associated with that. So we're having another one. And yes, don't let medical welfare to tie you in with your LGBTQ rights. You deserve rights independently of whether you want to have a surgery. You deserve accessibility for surgery if you want to have surgery. You also deserve accessibility for all the information that you need about this, and for you to have reversible procedures, and for you to have right to be who you are, regardless of the doctor or the lawyer or the state or anyone. So yeah, see you in another episode. Bye bye.